I'm talking about the unredeemed jinn. I'm not talking about the elves of, the Lord of the Rings.
I think in Christian scriptures, maybe they refer to as demons. Would this be correct?
Yes, the Christians would call them demons. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have unredeemed jinn living for 500 years, being handed by bloodlines from family, within a family, from generation to generation to generation. So the fathers teach the children, the jinn follow along with this doctrine, and they keep on whispering in the ear. But it goes further than that, because these people who stand behind the leaders of the New World Order that we've seen, these are practicing magicians that Muhammad warned Khosrow about.
Okay? I see.
And this is what is spoken about in the Quran when it talks about the Jews in Babylon who learned from Harut and Marut. They taught them magic.
Right.
They taught them how to break the interdimensional barrier and sit down at the table with the jinn. They do this on a regular basis. We don't do it. Now, the magicians, the local sorcerers amongst the tribes there in South Africa, they're well aware of these things. Matter of fact, one of the reasons that the white man succeeded in South Africa was because the sorcerers there had visions of the white man coming, and their jinn told them to surrender when they saw the sign of the cross.
So the jinn told the local tribes there in South Africa to surrender to the white man?
Yes, yes.
So they were not acting in the...
That's the first time I've ever heard that.
They were not acting in the interest of the tribes there in South Africa?
No, they thought it was their destiny. Excuse me, they thought it was their destiny to do this. Some of them had visions of the white man coming. And this is true all over the world. The sorcerers, the holy men, the practitioners of the spiritual arts of the indigenous people all over the world all tell the same story. They had visions of the white man coming. They knew what was going to happen. And most of them said, well, this is destiny. We can't do anything to do it. Now, you had leaders amongst the Zulu and other tribes down there that Cecil Rhodes had to deal with in a practical basis, because maybe the sorcerers said, no, you got to surrender, but the king said, no, I'm not going down. So what Cecil Rhodes had to do was, and what he did do, is he made it, and this is what the European occult group do, it's a part of their Orientalism. They send in the missionaries, and then they learn the folk ways, then they send in the academics, the sociologists, and they learn everything about the people, especially their superstitions, and then they use the superstitions against them. And this is how Cecil Rhodes destroyed, I think, one of your greatest tribes there. I don't remember the name of the tribe. It may have been the Zulus. I don't know. But they used their superstitions against them. He actually had Christian missionaries convince one tribe that their cattle had been demonized, and that tribe killed all of their cows.
Wow,
now,
I didn't know that.
Yes, and those cows, those cattle, was their only source of provision. It was their source of food and trade for everything. So once their cattle were destroyed, the tribe was destroyed.
I see.
And Cecil Rhodes just sent in the army and took over everything. So this is what these groups do. They don't just practice magic. All right, and you know there's different types of magic, but they do practical things like that, and they use the people's culture against them.
Right. So is this
And this
because
is one of the things that Cecil Rhodes did there in South Africa. I'm not an expert in South African history by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know about Cecil Rhodes, and I do know about his connections with the occult British Zionists in England.
You know, a few people know about Cecil
I
John
found
Rhodes.
out that my colleagues in the highest Muslim academic institution here in this country were inviting Rhodes scholars one after another, and they had no idea where they came from.
Well, we have the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, I think, in South Africa.
Yes.
So that says a lot.
Yeah, but you know what? Most people in South Africa, they don't understand who Cecil John Rhodes was. Lots of people in South Africa, even with this discussion that just happened when they tore down the statue, people didn't know who this guy really was. They were on both sides of the fence, and you know what? A lot of, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call them European people. Thought to themselves and kept telling me in discussions about it, they kept saying like, well, what would this country have been like if it weren't for someone like Cecil John Rhodes? And you know what, I don't know how to actually respond to that on the radio, but I mean my response to
it would be very different and probably far more humane.
Exactly. I mean, my response to that was generally, who said we wanted to be here, you know? And I mean, how does this work for us? Because it's not working for us by any stretch of the imagination. You can be like, well, you know.
Nobody's, the only person who probably said that the white man's way was the best way was Iblis.
I'm lost. You guys are speaking above me now. But just